So we've received a few emails over the last few weeks, and all really touch upon the same subject, which is how to properly expose film in your Super 8 camera.
Super 8.
And for well over a year, I've been receiving emails. Oh, I see that my camera only goes up to 160 ISO. So can I use 500T in it? Like anything else, experience will make a huge difference to your cinematography. But generally speaking, the topic is how to expose. And Owen and I had a conversation, and Owen's going to chat a little bit about Super 8 cartridges are notched. How do we start this, Owen?
Well, I think it really starts with how the camera meters the film and how it detects what speed it is and why the film is notched. So Super 8 cartridges. I mean, I guess the best place to start is at the beginning, and the beginning is what the whole point of Super 8 was, and that was to make a film format that was easy to use, easier than regular 8, which you have spools that you have to spool the camera, which is not that hard, but for the average consumer is actually pretty difficult. You know, mom and dad, they can't figure it out. They don't know. The camera gets dropped, the film gets dropped, whatever. So Kodak comes out with the cartridge system that just plops right into the camera, and the camera does the rest. It's like the old Brownie slogan: "You press the button, and we'll do the rest." So the cartridge that is filled with film needs to tell the camera, "Hey, I'm this speed, so you need to adjust your meter for the correct speed." So in order to do that, Kodak notched the cartridges, and if you look here, you can see one of the notches. So there's a notch there. There's a notch here. I'll explain what that notch is. And then this one doesn't have it, but some cartridges do have a notch all the way at the bottom. And all those notches tell the camera to do different things depending on what kind of film it is. Now, older cameras, the very first Super 8 camera that Kodak launched, the M2, fully manual. There could be any kind of notches on your film, doesn't matter. The camera is just a manual camera. You adjust the exposure based on the lighting. The camera doesn't have any capabilities. But as time went on, in the late 60s and in through the 1980s, before Super 8 died, all cameras had the ability to actually read the notches on the film and then expose correctly. So the question I think that most people ask is, how do I know that my camera can read the notches that are on my cartridge? How do I know my camera is reading the right film? Because just like you said, Mike, a lot of people are reading their manuals and they're saying, wait a minute, my camera says it can read 40 ASA and 160, but you just sold me a cartridge that's 500 ASA or 200 ASA or whatever it is. And the question is, how do I know that my camera can do that? Like we were discussing earlier, the best thing you can do is look at the manual. And that's going to tell you what kind of cartridges your camera can take. If you don't have the manual for whatever reason, there's a couple things you can do to figure out what kind of film cartridges your camera can automatically expose. And that is going to require you to open the camera, and also going to require you to download a really cool chart, which is free. It's a PDF. It was created by a guy in Germany named Friedemann Wachsmuth, and I assume Mike is going to put a nice handy-dandy link on the video where you can download this PDF for free, and you cut out 2 different pieces of paper. Whoa. Look at that. Very high-tech. So this one is going to tell you...
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, you like that?
That's what the notches are all about.
Exactly. That's going to let you figure out...
It's a notch decoder.
Yeah. You can't get these in a Cracker Jack box. That's gonna tell you.
Oh my God.
What notch your film is at, because, like, for example, I have this really bizarre roll of Ektachrome that I didn't have a box for, and I didn't know what speed it was, and so I could use this ruler to figure it out.
Whoa.
So you have that. That's going to tell you first how your film is notched. The next thing is this other handy dandy ruler, and this one is going to help you measure inside of your movie camera the pins, which are basically the things that read the notch on your camera. They're pins. Sometimes it's like a little step ladder that rests there, and then those pins tell the camera, hey, you've got a 100 ASA film loaded into you. And the way you do that, yeah, let's see some pins. Show us your pins, Mike.
The pins are right.
Whoa.
Pins are. Oh boy.
Gotta tilt it backwards
man.
so it doesn't fall forwards.
There
Which
you
way?
go.
Oh, this
There you
way.
go.
Stupid.
Dong.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
The pins here.
Right, those are some
most-
pins. Yeah, and sometimes like on my Bell and Howell here, you've got like, it looks like a little step ladder, and that moves in and out, and those rest in the notch. So anyway, the point is, you take your little handy dandy printout, you cut it out, and then you put it inside your camera. You line it up with the register pin, which is that stationary pin in the middle, and then that lines up with a bunch of different letters on this cutout, and those letters reference another chart that is also included in the same PDF.
I mean, this is for people who really want to know.
They really want to know. They got to know. It is important to know what your camera is set to when you insert that cartridge, because if your camera, let's say, only exposes ASA 40 and ASA 160, guess what? When you put that 500T in there, you might end up with a film that's really overexposed.
Oh, yeah.
Overexposed so much that you may not be able to correct it in the scan. You might, depending on what you're shooting, but if you're in broad daylight and your
Yep.
camera is shooting at 40 ASA with a 500 ASA film, oh my gosh.
Well, I took my T20 XL cheapo Bell and Howell, and I mean, here's the thing, folks. What Owen just said, like if I was taking this camera, which only goes up to 160 ISO,
Right.
in to the beach with 500T, not good. But
Right.
I knew I was shooting in a bookstore that I knew would have a decent available light with some daylight coming in. Though it was amply lit, but I would call it dim lighting.
Sure.
You can kind of trick the system. So here's
Sure.
here's a, for lack of a better word, a shitty camera that, which I love, by the way,
Great
a shitty camera that is not designed for 500T. But if your situation has enough ambient light, your camera, the film is going to compensate for the fact that the camera can't.
Exactly. And I think, again, most consumer cameras, that camera, a lot of them, especially by the 1970s, were either shooting 40 ASA or 160. And that still leaves you like 3 or 4 different film stocks you can throw in there right now and shoot, and you'll be fine. You can throw in 50D. Your camera's probably going to meter it at 40. That's fine. I mean, we're talking about pennies here in terms of the difference between 40 and 50 ASA. Same thing with like if you're shooting 100D, the new Ektachrome, your camera's probably metering it at 160. It's probably going to be fine. We're not talking about a huge difference. Same thing with Tri-X. Tri-X is technically a 200 ASA film. It looks great at 160. So part of it is just trusting your camera, throwing in a test roll, and just seeing what happens. My guess is you're going to be super happy with the results. It's when you get into higher ASAs like 500. And there were some cameras that did expose a huge range of films automatically. This Bell & Howell is a good example. This is the 471, which is the camera I shot my very first roll on.
It's a brick.
It is a brick, but it's great. You can shoot all the way up to 400 ASA. So a roll of 500T will work great.
So, folks, there's a lot of information on this gentleman's website.
Yes, he is very well known in the Super 8 and movie film communities on Facebook. And his website is peaceman.de. And his name is Friedemann Wachsmuth, and he's a great guy. I've corresponded with him a few times. He really knows his stuff. He knows a lot about movie film processing, and that Super 8 notch ruler is really cool.
I'm amazed by the conversation because I was thinking you got me to get that 500T.
Yes.
I just threw it in there and I didn't even think about it.
You didn't think about anything.
I wasn't aware I had to think about
Oh,
it.
but you knew it was 500T, and
Yeah.
you were like, I'm going to shoot this at the boardwalk at night. You weren't going to go to the
Yeah. And
beach.
you said, just put it on, this setting.
No, I said just put it in.
You said put it in and go.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't think about it because I trust you.
Oh, and
But
John,
not everybody has a Mike Rasso to.
John, I gave John one of my cameras. I had two Minolta cameras, which I love, the 601 XL and the 401. It's just a great camera. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, too. A lot of folks want to know what cameras. I see so many people shooting with the classic, beautiful Canon cameras.
Yeah, I always know if there's a really nice movie camera on eBay and it's gone like the next day. I'm like, Mike.
And folks,
See?
I mean, the reason we're doing this podcast and future podcasts about shooting movies on film is because I'm in over my eyeballs. Like I'm over my eyeballs involved with cinema film now. And we have a whole setup here. And, we're offering film, developing services, scanning services, and we're in deep. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Keep in touch, leave some comments, and hopefully we'll do the whole cinema show soon.
Cinema Show.
And pockets is what you gotta get. If you can't keep nothing in your pockets, then who needs pockets?